a little bit. So, Aries is a little quiet. Let's try now. Try it again, dude.
Hello there, hello.
I think that's going to be. Looks like it's good on my end. We'll let chat tell us here. So I gave you guys the Modcast paperwork via Google Documents, and today what we're really going to talk about is the do's and the don'ts while moderating and how to be a decent moderator. And you guys know a thing or two about that. If you don't know Mr. Aries, if you don't know Raza, combined there's probably around 200 mod swords in this chat right here between the three of us. Probably around 200. Over 20 partners included in that mix. So I'm not saying that because we think that we're experts. I'm just letting you guys know that we're educated on what we're going to be talking about, okay? This isn't a gloat fest among mod swords. A lot of times, or last time I did this, it kind of seemed like people thought I was gloating. Like, no, we're just trying to give you guys backgrounds so that you know that we're educated on what we're talking about. We're not going to teach physics if we're not physics professors, you know what I mean? So we are involved when it comes to moderating, so that's why we're here to talk to you guys. And like I said, Destiny 2 is coming out. There's going to be an influx of new viewership in channels, and it's going to be a lot harder to get discovered once Destiny 2 launches. There's going to be so many more people in our directories, right? So you might be a little bit more inclined to let things slide to get that viewership up a little bit. And whether you do that or not is going to be on you, but we're going to talk about from our side of things with the sword, how we're going to be helping out you broadcasters so that you guys can have the best possible product. So Aries, let's try again. Let's make sure that people can hear you.
Hello, hello, testing.
The gloating has begun. Exactly. Yes. Take it straight to yes, Radaki. Yes. You start. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about obviously what mod swords are. For those of you who don't know, moderators in chat are there to basically enforce the rules of the channel, and I use enforce loosely because that's kind of like the last resort for a moderator. The last thing that any of us really want to do is be timing out banning and purging people. Most of us are there to be positive influences in and represent our broadcasters in chat. But that's the low-down dirty secret of moderating is basically we have the power to ban, timeout, and purge, and we also have the ability to edit commands, edit titles, edit game directories, that kind of thing. And if I'm missing anything, Mr. Aries, you've been doing this a lot longer than I have. Is that, if you're gonna say that the foundation of a mod sword, that's kind of what it is?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. Yeah.
Raza, is there anything I missed in that?
No, I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Okay,
That's
cool.
Exactly the way I go as well.
So enforcing the rules of the channel, timeout, purge, bans, editing the title, editing the directories, anything else is kind of going to be on a case-by-case basis. It'll involve Discord and other third-party chat applications as well, should you be fortunate, should you have those resources. So if I was going to talk about the do's while moderating a channel, I think the first thing I would say is to know the rules of the channel that you're going to moderate. Once you start to accrue moderation swords in all these different channels, there's going to be variation between the rules in each channel, and Raza can attest. One of the rules that we kind of stay away from here is all of the spamming, and Mr. Raza, as a moderator in some channels, might break that rule in our channel. However, so talk a little bit about your experience as you go from one channel to the others in regards to spamming and how you know what's appropriate and what's not, Mr. Raza.
Well, I mean, obviously there's a fair few channels that are around Twitch. In my experience, there's a lot of them that are similar. A lot of them are different as well, but each and every single channel, no matter how similar it is, has a different demographical approach to it. So whenever I go into the channel, whether I have a mod sword or not, I always try and work with the way that the community and the streamer over there wants to work with it, rather than the way that I would like to work with it. Because it doesn't matter who you are, no one is above the channel. The channel it's like saying no player is above a club, like a football club or something like that. No one's above it. So the overall view of that is the most important thing. But yeah, every channel that I go to, I kind of have to be a different type of person in that channel, rather than just being myself. Because it's very, very easy, like you've pointed out. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna deny it. I spam a little bit every now and again. I find it fun. And there's channels that absolutely love that. Like there's GSXR Clyde who loves the spam. But then there's other channels that don't really like it and all that kind of stuff. And I completely understand that. And I will always try and respect that to the best of my ability. And if there's been times where I've actually spammed in channels and I shouldn't have, and the caster has asked me politely to not do it, and I've said, yeah, that's completely fine. I've never had a problem with owning up to a mistake and learning from it to try and improve myself as both a mod and a person.
And then you're making that mental note to be like, all right, I have to remember when I'm over in Rec's channel, the spamming, and this is not saying that this is how Rec feels. This is just an example. All right, I got to kind of cut down the spam if I'm in Rec's channel. All right, I'm in Clyde's channel. Now I can literally blow up chat for 15 minutes and he's not going to say a word. And then the more and more you get involved, the more it's like, man, I got to remember every time I'm doing this for a certain channel, I got to remember how to carry myself in those instances and what that channel is looking for. Do you find, do you look, I'm gonna give this one to Aries. Do you find yourself having to refresh it all because you're, the rules for a specific channel when you get there, if you haven't been there in a minute and you have a mod sword, do you find yourself double checking the rules, Mr. Aries?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I guess one good example is Robbie V kind of switched up some stuff when it comes to bots and stuff like that. So I came back, and he sent me a DM. He's like, "Oh, by the way, we did this, this, and this." So great. Okay, now I'll look into this and make sure I get everything situated and don't jump around and mess stuff up.
So knowing the rules of a channel, guys, if you're a moderator, obviously it's very, very important. And understanding that those rules may change over time. As a channel grows, it might be more lackadaisical when it comes to certain things. Or they might tighten the ropes a little bit. And one of the things that's important is to be refreshed via the rules, whether it's in the Discord or whether the panels themselves. One of the things you really want to be doing, at least on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, is making sure that nothing's changed from the broadcaster perspective for you guys out there. Sometimes communication can get lost. We moderate different channels. We have our lives outside of Twitch. So it's easy to kind of lose your bearings sometimes. So always remember to refresh the rules of the channel. The second thing to do while moderating, and this is going to be a common theme throughout all of these podcasts, is contribution in a positive manner. And you always want to try to bring up the vibe or stay on even keel with the vibe of a channel. You never want to be somebody, especially as a moderator, kind of bring the vibe of a channel down. You always want to be contributing in a positive manner. And that comes in a number of different ways. But so, Roz, you're just in general, you're a positive dude. So this isn't something that you really struggle with. You're not really going to come into a chat and kind of be like, well, woe is me. It's just your mindset in and of itself has always been super happy, which sometimes I wonder how you keep up that 24/7 positive attitude. But, talk a little bit about why, and you can talk about this from a broadcaster's perspective as well, but why is it important for the moderators to kind of stay with that positive mindset?
Well, I mean, when a streamer trusts a person in chat with the mod sword, they're trusting them with that chat, and they're also trusting them with effectively the face of the channel. When you get new people coming into the channel and all that kind of stuff, new faces that are not necessarily aware of the rules of the channel or even Twitch in general, they might be completely new or whatever. Those people, your mods are then, like, if they're being positive and all that kind of stuff, it's gonna be more advantageous towards the channel's growth for new people to come in and see that. Whereas if you have like someone who's being a little bit negative or whatever, there's more of a reason for any new people or even people that have already been in the channel to just go away, either lurk or just even worse, just leave. So the positivity over negativity approach is something that I will always adopt. I will always have that. If there's ever times where personally I'm feeling negative, or there's personally times where, I don't know, like some bad things have happened. Like, we all have them good days and bad days, don't we? Like, if there's a bad day happening, then I will try and I will literally just go into a lurk. I just won't like expose that to anyone. That is so important to me. So if like there's days where you don't see it or hear anything from me, it just might be where I'm having a bad day. I'm a human being at the end of the day. Like, there's nothing special about it. It's just adopting the right approach to everywhere and anywhere that you go into and anyone that you do speak to.
All right, so Mr. Aries, one of the other things that I feel is important for a positive manner and a positive attitude is greeting people and saying goodbye when they say that they're leaving. And you're very good at this. This is something I've picked up on from watching interactions in chat and many of the other channels is, you know, if somebody comes in and says hello, and maybe the broadcaster doesn't see it, but you're right there to say, yo, hey, what's up? You know, if someone's saying, yo, I'm gonna be leaving now, you're right there saying, oh, I hope you guys have a good day, or I hope I see you later on the directory or whatever. So talk a little. This is something I think is very underrated. but is extremely important when you're trying to promote community and inclusivity. So talk a little bit about how you do it. I don't know if you do it on purpose or not, but it's just what you do, and talk about why you feel like that's important to do.
So honestly, that's something that I talked with one of the channels that I got modded recently, and it was something that they felt was very important when it comes to making people feel important. People feel special. Maybe you're right. The streamer doesn't see it, but you have someone saying hi to you when you come in, and bye when you leave. They're being noticed by someone. And just kind of in a positive way, just saying hi. It's a big thing.
I really I certainly agree more now. We're getting some talk in chat that there's a lot of buffering happening. I don't know why. Nothing's changed on my end. Everything looks good. There's no dropped frames. Everything's green. So everything good for you guys, because I hate to. A lot of people are saying buffering. There's nothing telling me that anything shady is happening. I don't think the new gaming chair is causing buffering. Constant buffering for Ebb. I got no buffering. All good for you. Stream's fine for you. Just a lot of spinning wheel for Zen. I don't know. All good from Guardian Outpost as well.
Maybe just refresh.
Oh no, Electrifly! What happened? You used a period? Yeah, that dot.
Ellipses.
Yeah, Layla could take a page out of the do's and don'ts of moderating, couldn't you, Layla? I'm gonna have to unmod my own bot, dude. Anyway, so talking about greetings, talking about refreshing yourself with the rules of a channel. The other thing that I feel like is important is driving chat. And I use this term rather loosely because I mean a number of things, but one of the things a lot of broadcasters struggle with is if chat kind of starts to slow down. And myself, I am no different from this. I think a lot of broadcasters can say the same, that once chat slows down or becomes non-existent, you kind of start in the back of your mind to hit a panic button, kind of figure out what's going on. A lot of ways that that's when you kind of rely on the moderators to kind of say something, anything that's going to draw a reaction out of the broadcaster and get them talking again to kind of try and help, or whether they're having a conversation with the members of the chat themselves, keeping chat involved in the channel. So, Roz, I feel like this is another one of your strong suits, and you're just really good at being funny and goofy and silly in a chat, especially whenever I get the opportunity to catch you doing what you're doing. You're definitely somebody who drives conversation, and you're just funny in the channel. Mr. Aries, a lot of times, like I said, when I see you, it's a lot of the greetings and hellos and the formalities in the beginning or towards the end of a broadcast, and then you'll go do your lurking thing. But when I catch you, you're kind of doing the same thing. So, from a moderator standpoint, if things start to slow down, I'm going to ask this to Raza first. Do you find yourself trying to kind of hop in there and make a little bit of a difference to keep things moving?
I am someone who, I don't really like to say this, but casting myself as well, is when chat does get a bit slow, yeah, sure. It can easily creep into the back of your mind. It's very, very easy to creep into the back of your mind. What's going on? There's no one here. What's the point of me doing all this kind of stuff? Blah, blah, blah. But to me, that's not really the point in a stream kind of thing. The main point for me is to have a good time, just to have fun. And playing games in itself can be that very, very easily. It's a difficult mindset to get into. But when you are in it does make streaming as a whole so much easier. And the chat on top of it is just a massive bonus. When people are talking, it's that's something that I will always appreciate and respect, no matter what stream it's in. Just to be able to see people talking all the time. But what I'll normally do as a moderator, from a moderator standpoint, is I'll have a look around the channels or whatever, because I normally lurk in 15, 20 channels.
Oh, I'm well aware.
Yeah. And I'll scan through them, all that kind of stuff. And if I see there's a streamer who's there's not a lot of chat activity going on, I'll go and have a speak with them. I'll give them something to work off of, because it just makes it much easier for them to stream. And I completely understand that perspective. I've been in both pairs of shoes, if you want to say that. So yeah, it's much easier when there's chat activity going on, because you have something to work off of rather than basically just talking to the game and yourself. But that's ultimately what streaming is all about. And it's very, very, very important to not let that get into your head as much as possible, and your mods can easily help you with that. However, I don't really find it fair to expect that of your mods. It's just something that your mods can do as like kind of like a good thing, just a good thing on their behalf. But it shouldn't ever be something that you expect as a broadcaster.
We'll get into expectations of moderators as a broadcaster in a later time. I don't want to start to blur the lines there, but
Yeah.
a real quick shortcut is you expect nothing. The 99.9999% of moderators on Twitch are not getting paid. They're not employees. They shouldn't be spoken to. We'll get into it. Well, I don't want to. I'm going to go on a tangent. But yeah, I agree with you. And Mr. Aries, I don't know how many channels you get to moderate that might slow down. You have some of the largest clients, I'll say. I'll use the word clients out of all of us here that are going to be doing this. You certainly have the mod sword in some of the largest channels that we frequent on Twitch. So I don't know if you find yourself in examples where a chat might start to slow down as a moderator. Do you or do you not? Or if you do, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's much more rare for sure for me. But what I tend to do is like if I get like a really interesting question I get asked like earlier on in the day, I'll just kind of throw it in. Or something like that doesn't really occur. I kind of throw a small joke in there to kind of get some reaction in chat.
What a veteran, dude. What a veteran thought process.
Smart.
It's really, really good. A lot of people use the question of the day. That's 100% one of the better utilities that I think you could even offer somebody else as chat slows down. Once again, if you missed it, go ahead, like, really interesting question pops up on, whether it's Twitter or on Twitch, Mr. Aries pops it in. That's really, really good. That's really good. You should give yourself a pat on the back. You're not here, else I would. You'd have to be on camera though. Mr. Aries, Mr. Aries doesn't show his face to anybody. So that's driving chat. Is there anything that you feel like I missed? I'll say this. How about we go this way with it? When driving chat, you also want to try and avoid being a distraction. Would you say that that's fair? I feel like that's a fair assessment. Whether it's editing commands, like if you're trying to get a command right and you're taking up chat 90 lines trying to get this one command correct, that might be something that I'd pull the person aside and say, hey man, once the broadcast is over, or why don't I go on the bot after stream and kind of get this right for you versus, taking up, and I've seen it happen. Would you guys say that that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, I agree. Normally what I like to do, just as a little thing that I thought of, is I just have like a backup Twitch account, like with Nightbot and other bots attached to it, and I just go and like make sure the command works first time in that one, and then I go and put it in the actual channel where there's chat activity, just to ensure that it's not messed up or anything like that. Albeit mistakes does happen still, and there's not really much you can do about it, but if a command does get messed up and it does start to become distractive, then I literally just stop and I'll do it like later when there's not people in the chat. I don't really want to take up the chat lines, all that kind of stuff. Because
you only want to do it when you're doing shout outs.
I was about to say my spam does come into it a little bit there, yeah. But only in channels that accept it.
So let's talk about driving chat. I think shoutouts are a part of that. I think that's part of the direction of the channel. And Raza, we know, well, most of us know how you handle yourself in most channels when it comes to shoutouts. But what's the best way for a moderator to make a shoutout be impactful? And I'm going to ask Mr. Aries that question. If you really want a shoutout to be meaningful, what's your best way of going about it? Is it as simple as just an exclamation point shoutout command, or are you going to add something a little bit saucy on the end of it?
Sometimes I typically will, in a sense, kind of ignore the shoutout command and then kind of, like, hey, this person's really awesome. Make sure you go check them out, and then spam that. And then maybe drop, a shout out or two after that command-wise.
I feel like Raza does the same thing. I feel like you're most likely to do something, have a sentence associated with it, and not use the actual command.
See, like, I understand why the command is there, because for me, in my perspective, the command is more useful for mobile mods, because there's a lot of people that mod from mobile. How they do it, I don't know. They are literal gods. I don't know how they do it. They're amazing. They are amazing human beings. I have no idea how they do that. But for me, the shout out command, it doesn't feel as personal towards the streamer that I'm shouting out, which is why I take the time out of, like, I insert the link myself and put a message after it, because I want that streamer and the chat and the streamer that we're in the channel of to know that I do support that streamer and that you should go and shout it out. It feels more personal, and it feels like you're making the effort to do it because it matters more to you. Whereas if a shout out command, you're just doing it. Lazy is a strong word to use, but it's kind of similar how you use the comparison of do you know how Deepbot shouts out in Discord when you're going live? I prefer to do it manually.
Right.
Because it shows that you care about the community, you care about, you know, people knowing and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, like I prefer manual over bot usage personally. If
I like
have
it.
the choice to, then I will.
I like it. I think that's really good points by both of you that I didn't think of until we got to that subject. That's really, really good. Moving on to the thing I feel like most of us dread the most, depending on the situation, which is like chat discipline and how to go about it the correct way. And there's a lot of ways to go about this, and I think depending on the channel, it's going to be it's going to depend on how you handle it. But most of the time, we suggest that you operate on a warn, purge, timeout, ban, in that order. And obviously, that there's going to be situations that don't call for a process and call for the immediate. You're not allowed to come here, and that's going to be like your blatantly obvious, awful things to be said. But sometimes the lines can get a little bit blurred, and we operate here on this channel on a warn, purge, timeout, ban, and lately I feel like I should be the one doing that. It's a little bit less abrasive when the broadcaster is the one who does it versus a mod, because as a moderator, you literally have the power to determine who's allowed to stay in the channel and who's not. And you can always do the unbanning and whatnot, but usually once that happens, you'll find that relationship is pretty much over. Once that discipline occurs, it's really, really hard to get that viewer to come back. And I got to tell you, as a broadcaster on Twitch, and you guys can agree, every single viewer is very, very important. Every single one. So let's talk a little bit about the warn, purge, timeout, and ban. I'm going to start with Mr. Aries because I feel like you're going to get the brunt of a lot of this. You're probably going to have a lot of the most experience with this, given the channels that you moderate. So talk a little bit about the process for any kind of discipline that occurs in a channel and how you go about making that decision.
Honestly, it kind of, for the most part, for me, it runs along that same process that you spoke about, like just hey, knock it off kind of thing, just a little warning, a purge. But honestly, it's very hard to kind of juggle when it comes to like, oh, is this something that you really got to go about doing a timeout, or is it got to get super serious and just fully finish it off? But yeah, I try and stick to purge first, because 9 times out of 10, some stuff is just lighthearted. It wasn't meant to be rude or whatever, or however it comes across. But then if it kind of comes up again, that's where I kind of start to, hey, all right, that's it.
And do you find yourself having conversations with broadcasters after, or via Whisper or via Discord, like, hey, this is what happened, just to let you know what was going on, this is what I saw? Do you keep that kind of communication going on between other moderators in the chat, or does it not really come up?
Actually, yeah. So in one of the main chats that I'm in, we actually have a Twitter group DM with most of the mods and the streamer. So every now and again, she'll post, oh, hey, you know what, next time maybe this person didn't need to get a timeout, or, oh, maybe they didn't need this. And we can all kind of see it and react and, you know, hey, kind of explain situations, stuff like that.
This is why moderating is like active duty. Like when you're in a channel and you're actually able to fulfill the duties of a moderator, you're not being pulled away by something at work or by family or by kids or whatever. This is like this exact instance is why it's like a continuous thing. You know, you're part consumer and part viewer, but you're also kind of there to make sure things run smoothly. So Raza, I mean, let's talk about your approach. You know, you kind of handle things in like the middle viewership range in most channels on Twitch. And correct me if I'm wrong, you know, but it's a little bit more impactful when we time somebody out or purge or warn. It seems to have more ramifications than a channel that has maybe 1,000 or more viewers. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, if you have 10 viewers and you lose one of them, that's a bigger impact than if you have 1,000 and now you're down to 999. Every viewer is important, but the impact might be multiplied. So talk a little bit about your experience in that instance.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like, obviously, the larger channels, like a ban or a timeout, is not going to go as noticed as what it would do in a smaller channel. So given that, dependent on the channel that I'm in, because yeah, I mod for medium-sized streamers, one large one, and a fair few ones that are still working their way up. And for those channels, I try and be as lenient as I can towards people, because honestly, I don't like banning people. I don't like timing people out. I don't like doing that. I like to give people the chance, because like at the end of the day, everyone starts at square zero on Twitch. Everyone starts with nothing and doesn't know anything and all that kind of stuff. And if you like completely just ban someone straight out of the blue, or time someone out without like first talking to them or warning them about it, people can change. They can change, and I've changed a lot of people on Twitch, thankfully, with the help that I've been given throughout the community. I do try and tend to stick to warn, purge, timeout, then ban if necessary. But there's been plenty of people that I've banned, then spoken to in DMs off outside of chat, and they've learnt their lesson and they've moved forward, and I completely unbanned them, and they're like one of the most valuable members in communities now. It's happened more times than I actually thought, thinking about it. But yeah, it's definitely something that I don't like doing. So if I can avoid a ban, I will. But obviously there are some. It is the internet after all. There are trolls and people that will just accommodate a ban straight away.
We'll get into those as we go. So guys, if you're just joining us, this is the Modcast. This is a podcast about moderationship on Twitch. I've got special guests Raza582 and Mr. Aries with us. Two pretty high profile moderators in our directory, in our fair directory. These two I consider to be big deals when it comes to mods. There's others that are going to be invited to be on the show. This is our first episode. So we're going to take questions from you guys towards the end of the broadcast. I don't have chat really open. I'm not really looking at it. So if I'm not responding to you, I'm not trying to be blatantly ignoring you. I just want to make sure we don't lose our thought processes as we go along. As you guys know, I get distracted easily. So that's the do's really of moderating, and I think that covers a lot of it. If there's things we missed, I'm sure chat will point it out towards the end. But what I want to get into now are the don'ts. What you don't want to do as a moderator, because these can be equally as important. One of the big things that I made the mistake of doing is moderating chat while you're lurking with audio off. You see a comment in chat and you're like, I know that this is not able to be seen or said in this chat, so I'm going to boop that person. And then I'll get a whisper or a DM, or I'll get caught out and be like, dude, what are you doing? Like, what just happened is completely relatable to the conversation. So one of the things you want to avoid doing, I don't know if you guys are guilty of this or if you guys have been guilty of it before, but you don't want to moderate the channel while you're not paying attention to what's actually going on, because sometimes conversations can lead themselves to areas that might not normally be okay. So I don't know if you guys have ever done that. If am I the only one? Probably the only one.
No, I'll admit I've done that. I've done that in the past.
Yep.
Thank God.
I've learned my lesson from it. I don't do it anymore.
Well, you guys were dead silent while I was like, oh man, am I the old? They're like, no, I've never done that, dude. I don't know what you're like. What are you even talking about? So that's a pretty simple one, pretty self-explanatory. The second one on the list is don't go overboard with the spam, and in parentheses it literally says Raz's name on it. It literally says Raz's name. Don't go overboard with the spam. But that's, again, these things are going to be contextual. If you know, he's gone overboard with the spam and it's been noted, and I'm pretty sure you've already stated you haven't made that same mistake.
To this date, nope.
Give it time. Give it time. Give it time.
Hopefully I don't in the future.
You're not really a spammer, Mr. Aries, are you?
No.
Are you a spammer of the hype?
I can be. Where it is wanted. Yes.
Interesting. I don't know if I've ever seen you do the spamming. So this one can be a thing. The next one is don't be disrespectful to the broadcaster or to chat. And if you're having a bad day, or if you believe very, very strongly and somebody is disagreeing with you very, very strongly, this can tend to happen. But as an example for the broadcast, what you never want to do if you're having this really, really heated disagreement is you want to take that into private. You want to take that into DMs. You want to take that into the Discord. It might involve other members of the moderation team, but you want to set that aside and handle that kind of thing in private should it ever come up. So I don't know if you guys have ever had situations where you kind of disagree what's going on in the channel, but if you would like to talk about how you went about handling those situations, that'd be really useful. Mr. Aries, we'll start with you.
I haven't really had much in that that kind of stuff go on.
He's a
It's
saint.
just more of
He's a
it's
saint.
just more of like
Saint
it's just
Aries,
more of
dude.
just kind of seeing stuff that like maybe between a few people in the chat are getting a little heated. So hey, maybe you should take that to Whisperers, that kind of stuff. But other than that, no, I haven't really experienced that.
Roz?
I've had a couple of instances where it's edged into that area where a streamer's done something, and I thought to myself, it's probably not the best idea to have done that. But bringing it up live in chat is something that I will never do, and I've never been guilty of doing that either. For me, live in chat it's a delicate place, and it needs to be handled correctly. Because it is like chat is like it's like 90% of a channel. It's so important, so it needs to be carefully looked after. But if I do disagree with something with the streamer, I will always 100% take it to the whispers or the DMs, so they can so we can have like a proper conversation away from the eyes about it.
Saint Raza. He's a saint too. Next one up is don't talk negatively about other streamers. This is very, very self-explanatory, but especially when you're hanging out in some of the PvP and the trials, Sherpa, you might start to see some of this come out, whether it's members of chat. What you never want to be caught doing as one who has a mod sword who represents the brand of the channel is be saying negative things about other broadcasters. Don't be name dropping, those kinds of things. I think we see it more from chat than we do moderators, but every now and again when things get really heated, I believe I've seen it on some channels that are trying to find their footing, that kind of thing. I can't say that I've seen it in some of the major channels. I don't think anyway. Mr. Aries, did it come up for you? Anything you ever kind of see?
No, never really from much in the way of mods or from streamers. It's just mainly chat.
Roz, other than negatively talking about Carolina Gamer 99, have you ever? Well, I'm kidding. Have you ever?
You're completely right with that. Like me and CG do like banter across from one another, but
that's your relationship, though.
He's a really, really good friend of mine. He's someone that I will always appreciate and help out with him and support him. He's just a good dude.
He is a good.
But yeah,
dude.
we do banter across with one another because it's just like the interactivity between myself and him is something that people enjoy watching. It's the same as when me and Zach talk. Like,
right.
It's just, oh my god, it's horrible.
You guys taking shots at each other is part of it. That's different. I mean, on paper it's not different, but for an outside person looking in, they might not know. If it's the viewer's first time in the channel, first time coming across you, that might be what they think the community does. But I think the more time that they spend, the more that they actually watch, they'll kind of see that's not the case. But it's a tough thing to juggle though, because it's almost a case by case basis, something like that. Yeah. So that's the the big thing is don't talk negatively about other broadcasters. That's the main thing. Next up is don't think that you run the channel. As a moderator, you have to understand that you are a moderator in the broadcaster's channel. It is not your channel. And one of the things that can really start to blur the lines is, as your channel itself starts to grow, or as your personal beliefs start to become more concrete, you might be saying, that person isn't allowed to say that because they're allowed to say it where I hang out and bop them. And then you have to be like, hold on a second, wait a minute, that, my personal beliefs have to be set aside for the sake of the channel. So, I know that I've witnessed and have been a part of situations like that. I'm not sure that Mr. Aries, Saint Aries or Mr. Raza have come across instances like that. Have you ever, Mr. Aries, had to check yourself against what you personally believe and what was going on in the channel?
I have, but it's something that I kind of caught myself. I kind of started to type and hang on a second.
Thought about it.
This is my and then kind of wiped it clean.
Raza?
Yeah, I've had a couple of instances where I was about to say something, but then the beauty with Twitch and talking online anywhere is that you can read what you said before you say it. And
you must type really slow, man, because my message is sent before my fingers even start working and the way my brain works, dude. Good for you, man. Good for you guys. I'll do that with Twitter. I'll read over the tweets. I don't know that I read over what I'm about to type in chat very often. I'm not gonna lie about that. So
I try to do that to the best of my ability, yeah, because it makes a difference with what you say in chat, especially with a mod sword next to your name. You need to be cautious of what you're saying at all times.
Yeah. So next up, don't argue with other mods in public. This kind of coincides the same way that it would with the broadcaster. And I don't want you to put out any false representation of all moderators that like to hold hands and sing songs together. That's not always the case. Sometimes personalities are going to clash, whether it's beliefs, whether it's discussions, and you never want to really start to go at it. Now, there's a difference between having a discussion and arguing. I want to be very clear with that. It is okay to disagree with people all over life. Once you start to argue with people, that's when you're starting to actually alter the state of the channel. Everything else kind of disappears and it becomes just you and the other people that you're having the argument with. I know that I've been guilty of this in the past. I believe I've seen it all throughout other channels as well. So, Mr. Aries, you're such. Do you ever disagree with people? Does it ever get to that level for you?
Yeah, I have had an issue with it in the past.
You have?
Yes.
Yes!
He's not perfect.
He's not perfect!
It's not perfect.
Finally! We got him. Raza, how about you? Have you ever had flat out arguments in chat with people over things while you're both moderators?
Like not necessarily live straight in chat, but I've had disagreements where I've just said, okay, I'm a luck, and you can do what you do. I'll speak to you about it later.
That's probably a better way to go about it. If as long as coverage remains in the channel, I think that's a pretty proper way to do it. If you're really getting irked about it and you can't take it to Whispers or Discord, just walk away, cool off a little bit before you pull an aura and you just fly off the handle. And you're probably gonna be in a lot better shape for the sake of the relationship within the channel. I think that's a big one, because especially some people that spend hours in, and this happens, guys. Don't think that it doesn't. There's broadcasters that will broadcast for 8 to 12 or more hours, and that they'll have moderators or the same moderators in their channel for the duration of the broadcast, right? That's crazy. And that's got to start to wear on you, especially towards the end of the day. It's got to be like the same as like the end of a workday. You're like, dude, I just don't care. I'm going to start to be a little bit loosey goosey with my words now. The dizziness factor starts to come in. So, and then our last point. Actually, there's 2 points, but the last one says be Raza. Don't be Raza. But I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree with that one. So the next to last one is don't expect anything in return. And you really shouldn't. You shouldn't expect anything on Twitch regardless. But if you're a moderator who's also a broadcaster and you moderate for a larger channel, it might creep into the back of your mind, like, since I'm a moderator, I'm going to get support. I'm expecting support from the channels that I moderate from. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't go by that. And the moderators here certainly don't go by that. But why don't you guys, Mr. Aries, Raza, talk a little bit about what expectations, if any, you hold from the channels that you moderate. Aries, I'll start with you.
Other than just kind of talking with the streamer, I really don't expect, to be, fully supported and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm there because I want to be there, and so I don't expect them to do much for me. But I do get good friendships from it. But that doesn't mean that I expect to kind of get full-on support and all that kind of other stuff. So,
Raza?
Yeah, I'm in pretty much the same boat. Like, I mean, you put it very, very well a little while ago, or one of your sayings, expect nothing, appreciate everything, is kind of the same approach that I go by. Just because, like, you've been entrusted with mod for that channel, or, any other duties that the streamer trusts you with, it doesn't give you the right to, like, expect anything over anyone else in the channel. It just doesn't, like, it's a fine line that can easily be blurred. But as long as you just try and remain as collective as possible about not expecting anything, then you can't really do much wrong with it, and that's the safest way to go about things.
I feel like that's one that's specific to broadcasters who also moderate, though. It's very, I don't know I mean, I don't know, maybe like giveaways and whatnot. Somebody who's not a broadcaster who moderates could possibly be thinking of, but I really do feel like that's something that's specific to broadcasters who also moderate. At the end of the day, as a broadcaster, you can get support from all the places all over Twitch, but you're really on your own. When it comes to building your own community, you really are on your own, because if that support system goes away and it takes all the support that you had garnered with it, right, you're right back to square one, right? So I feel like that one is specific to broadcasters. And then, like I said, the last don'ts while moderating says be Raza, but that was Zach. That was Age of Zach who put that one there. And
sounds about right.
So at this point, that's going to conclude what we're going to talk about specifically today: the do's of moderating, the don'ts while moderating. Once again, I got Raza right below, whose logo is right below mine. Then Mr. Aries, who is on the bottom there, and we'll open up chat for questions. If you guys have questions, please @Evil Aura. and we will try and flag and answer what we may have missed for you guys to help you guys who are moderators and want to improve both as a moderator and the vibe of the channel.